What is up, everybody? As you can see, I'm joined by a special guest today, Managing Director of Fresh Press UK and the host of the Sporting Voices podcast, which is just launched. I think, Steve, you're on your 6th episode, if I'm correct. Mr. Stephen Hoare, how are you, sir?
I'm good, mate. Thanks for having me. It's like a right said phrase convention here, I think, isn't it, Craig?
I'm not... We're fighting hard here. We're fighting hard to give the positivity to us baldies, mate. But you know, I'm sticking by the line, Steve, that I'm not bald and I do it by choice, and I'm going to stick to that until the day I die, no matter what else happens.
I'm the opposite, mate. I'm very much. I lost the fight a long time ago, so hence the beard. I thought if I keep the beard, there's a bit.
I can't do the beard. I can't even grow a beard, man. That's I would. I'd have the full beard. I'd be full on upside down head if I had the opportunity, but I don't. Look, I know we're here to talk about your podcast, but our paths have crossed on Twitter for many years. We've never really had a chance to speak, and I just wanted to get your reaction to the 30-year way finally over. Jurgen Klopp and that group of boys have finally done it, and I want to just know how you feel about it, Steve.
I mean, delighted is an understatement, isn't it? We've been waiting for this, like I say, 30 years. I mean, it's a lifetime for me and a lot of other people. It was, like I say, I'll be honest, the circumstances weren't ideal. Obviously, the fact that we couldn't have the party and the parade, because obviously I went to the Champions League parade the year previous with my son, and it was just incredible, and it'd have been nice to do that again, but circumstances weren't to be. But I've always thought, Craig, that when Liverpool won if they ever won the league and when they won the league, it would be more in the Manchester City, Sergio Aguero type moment where it was, you know, last day of the season, fingers nail biting and stuff like that. But the fact that it wasn't, it was kind of like, it was January. We were thinking, like, we've won the league, but we couldn't say it because we wasn't too nervous to say it. But Liverpool won the league in a way that, like, true champions do. They just dominated from start to finish. So I think that was nice in a way. Obviously, in hindsight, I imagine if you ask Manchester City fans what their favourite moments are, they'd probably say the Aguero moment because of how well it went. But, I mean, up until a minute to the end of the season, it probably wasn't that great compared to the up 100-point season and stuff. But listen, I think if you're going to do it where you are clearly just the best team and just dominate it, and that's what we did. So it was an amazing, even, you know, to be in the city on the night when the Chelsea City result comes in, and obviously fireworks going off and there's parties. I mean, I live quite close to the main road, and there was cars up and down with the horns and the flags. I mean, I was out having a few beers myself out there. It was incredible. Like I say, the thing is, because of how late it happened, we almost don't get the whole summer to celebrate it. Tomorrow, when we kick off again, we all go again. So it's hard to put into words how much it means. I was very emotional on the day. I mean, I don't cry much about sport, but I must admit, even I had a tear in my eyes. So delighted to get that monkey off our backs, and now the challenge is to go and do it again. I mean, football doesn't stand still. All well and good being the champions, but then the way the sport works and the way this all works is that it means nothing. Now you got to go and do it again.
I was speaking to somebody about the way we won the title, and you touched on it there. Usually, you've got the Barcelona moment, you've got Istanbul, you've got that Aguero moment you spoke about as well, and it was, I don't want to say anticlimactic because that's not the right word, but it was a strange experience seeing the Champions League continue on, and as you said, not being able to celebrate as well as they'd want to and as much as they'd want to, but it was just some achievement to go and beat. I mean, to have lost the league by a single point, those guys must have been heartbroken. And to show that the strength of character that they did to come back and win the league by 18 points, it was remarkable. And one thing that actually stood out for me was, and I don't like to give the Premier League much credit, but I actually thought they handled the trophy presentation very well.
Yeah, and to be fair, so Liverpool, they spent a bit of money on it because it would have been strange if they were just in the middle of the pitch. You know, lifting a trophy to nobody essentially, but the way they done it with the fireworks and the music and the lights, and obviously, I think it was a very, very late decision where they were allowed to have family members in bubbles almost in their own little boxes and stuff. So I think that was a massive thing especially for the players, because at least they had somebody to wave at and point at, where obviously in an empty stadium they wouldn't have it. It was, like I say, I think they made the absolute best of what was a pretty poor situation, because I've always dreamed of, you know, being on Anfield on the final day of a season, watching Liverpool lift the title, and that's obviously now I've never experienced that myself, obviously being at the age I am. So I suppose in a way that's something new to look forward to. Again, God knows when fans are going to be allowed back in, and if it'll be next season or whatever. But there will be a point when we are allowed to go back into Anfield, and I suppose in a way that's still something to look forward to. Is that I've seen Liverpool become champions of Europe, I've seen them become champions of everything, world, England, whatever. But what I haven't actually seen it with my own eyes, them lifting that trophy, the Premier League one anyway. So I suppose in a way it gives us another challenge and something else to look forward to. And I wouldn't be shocked if Jurgen used that as a message, let's go and do it again, and this time we can have the party, because I know they've said at some point they still want to celebrate this one with the fans and with the people, but I mean, the way we're going and this city at the moment, again, the cases are on the rise and stuff, we just don't know when that's going to be, and I think it'd be quite odd if we get to, November, December, January, and they're parading last year's trophy off. I'm not sure how the dynamic of it, so that's an aim, isn't it, to win it again, where we can do everything that we dreamed of, so we can have a full Anfield and we can have a parade down through town and through the docks and stuff. I'm fingers crossed that they'll be able to do it this time, because that's the only shame really, that we didn't really get the big giant party that I've always dreamed of having. It was more beers on Zoom. Not ideal, it was what it was.
It was nice to see the players celebrate. They got together, obviously, to watch the Chelsea City game, and it was lovely to be able to see that moment with them as well. I think the club have been very good at giving us this behind-the-scenes look at what's going on and trying to make it as the fans as involved as possible. I mean, it's a very difficult job, but with no fans inside stadiums, I'm always curious to ask guests this: Are you a sound on or a sound off man when it comes to the crowd noise?
Sound noise, I have the crowd noise on. I tried it without it a few times, and it felt like a training game. And to be honest, my attention span is rubbish anyway. So sometimes I might just doze off, and it's familiar in the background to hear the buzz of a crowd and stuff. So yeah, I've been at the sound noise. Sorry, I've had the crowd noise on. I tried watching the very first game back. Was it Villa? I think it was. It might have been City. Sorry, City Arsenal and Villa Sheffield United, was it, I think? And I had it off because I thought I'm not going to enjoy this, but it was very odd. It was like being in the gym when you were doing PE and you could hear shouting and ricochets and echoes, and I thought, no, I'm happy to be fooled. And in your head, it's not real, but I think to be fair, they do that good a job and to do that well with it. It does sound pretty natural. So yeah, I'm definitely crowd noise on.
I'm the same as you. I thought initially that I'd like the crowd noise off. I'd like to hear the players cursing at each other. I'd like to hear Van Dijk barking orders around to players, but it kind of wore thin pretty quickly, and I went back to the crowd noise. And look, I don't really I know we're all sick of talking about this, but I can't have you on without talking a little bit about the transfer window. And it is probably, as a Liverpool fan, one of the most frustrating ones for various reasons, whatever way you look at it, whether it's looking at a rival strengthening, whether it's understanding the financial position the clubs are in, which I think we all do. But I'm not going to lie, Steve, this has ruined the transfer window for me. I love a transfer window, but this one has been very frustrating. How are you finding it?
Yeah, it's weird. What's funny, Craig, is that everyone complains, I hate talking about transfers. But then I run a website and the most popular stories are always transfers, and it reminds me a bit of McDonald's, where people go, I don't like McDonald's, but someone's buying it because there's a billion of them all over this, you know what I mean? So everyone hates transfer talk, but obviously they don't, because that's what sells, you know what I mean? Like, it sells newspapers, it sells videos, it sells podcasting. So people must like it. It's strange that everyone kind of has that default, transfers, blah, 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 but secretly everyone kind of likes it, and I don't think I've met anyone deep down inside who isn't interested in a juicy rumour or a bit of gossip or whatever. And I'm in the same boat as you, is that I'm adamant that you when you are in a position of strength, you should strengthen. That's when you go and you lay a marker down, and you're the attractive option, because everyone wants to play for the champions of Europe at the time. Now, obviously, champions of Premier League and no longer the champions of Europe. But in fairness, this is such a unique situation. I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic. It doesn't get any more strange or any different than that. So I get the point of Liverpool trying to be, the bank balance, and they don't want to saddle the club with debt and have to pay back. I get all that. I don't agree with it. I understand what they're saying. I don't agree with it. I think they should be buying players. I got the Timo Werner one because that happened. When that happened, I mean, things were very much up in the air in terms of, was there even going to be a season? What was going to happen? We just didn't know anything there. So I kind of got why they skipped on that one. But since then, I don't think there's any reason why they haven't done any business. They should have done some business. I mean, everyone's on about Thiago Alcantara, and I understand that because, you know, it's very rare that in one summer you have two genuine class players, and Timo Werner was one and Thiago was another who want to join your club. That's a rarity for us, isn't it? I mean, I don't, as in my time as a Liverpool fan, Craig, I don't think we've signed a player who we genuinely thought was absolute world class. I mean, we brought players in and they've got there. Like Van Dijk was a very good defender, but I don't think anyone had him in the same bracket as Ramos and Chiellini's and whoever else was around a couple of years ago. Probably the closest one's Alisson Becker, where we've gone and signed everyone, who everyone just acknowledges as world class. We very rarely do it. So when the chance is there to do it with this midfielder, I can see why everyone's on it, and I'm on it. I think they should buy him. But my concern is actually more other areas. They had to get a left back, and they did. Fair play. They have to get a centre back. I'm adamant. I'm not into this Fabinho fourth choice nonsense. I don't want that. He's a centre midfielder. He should be fifth, sixth choice centre back, not third, fourth. I actually think they probably could do with a right back as well. And I know Neco Williams is developing, and that's fine. But I think there's a bridge to be gapped. A gap to be bridged rather. And I think that maybe just saying if Trent's out for a month, that Neco Williams is playing every single game. I think that's tough on him. Midfield, I think, are actually quite well stocked. Again, Thiago's he wants to come to Liverpool, so you probably should buy him. And I think even up front as well, there's probably an option to say, well, are we short there? And again, probably yeah. So I don't think listen, it's not the disaster that some might say it is. Liverpool can still win the league with this team, and they can still win the European Cup with this team and this squad. I mean, to say that they can't, I think is nonsense. But I think it would be easier, and I think it would be ideal if they said, right, we are, because of who we are and what we're doing, we're happy to take X amount of debt on, in the fact that we know we'll kind of pay it back. I mean, the club's worth £1 billion. You know, stick a few extra YouTube videos out and you'll make yourself a couple of $1,000. You know, but there's ways, I think there's ways and means to bridge it. I'm not saying go and do 200, 300, 400 million pounds worth of signings, no, but I think there should have been a little bit more activity than there's been now, and I do think there are areas where essentially we're weaker at the back than we were last year because we've lost Dejan Lovren and we haven't replaced him. Tsimikas for Robertson, I think that's more of an attacking move anyway than a defensive kind of move. So I actually think at the back we're a little bit weaker, but listen, it's still a squad that's full of quality. But I'm with you, mate. I think they should have done something, and I'm surprised they haven't. Again, I understand the reasoning behind it and the finances, but just because I understand it doesn't mean I agree with it.
Do you know what concerns me? And yeah, I agree we should be looking to strengthen, but one, the fact that we've got to this situation with Gini Wijnaldum, somebody who's played a ridiculous amount of minutes under Jurgen Klopp, somebody who Klopp turns to all the time in the Premier League. I think he's second to Bobby Firmino in minutes over the past few years. That we allowed that to get to this situation, and that Raheem Brewster has been talked about as potentially getting sold. Even the talk of it. I don't care about buyback clauses. If you remember when we got Raheem Brewster to sign that professional contract, there was loads of clubs sniffing around. I remember reading an excellent article from Melissa Reddy about the interest in Raheem Brewster, and Klopp went out of his way when Mohamed Salah was getting his Player of the Year speech as well to drop Raheem Brewster's name. And I just wonder what it would be like for him if the club said to him, look, mate, we're going to sell you on, but we've every intention of buying you back. It just doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't scream belief in the player, and it doesn't give him the backing of the club. It just seems odd.
Wow. Yeah, if he goes, I think it's because someone's decided that he's not good enough, and that someone's probably Jurgen Klopp. If they think he's good enough, they would just loan him out. You know what I mean? They would have trust me, I know there would be a queue of teams. I think 7 clubs asked to take him on loan already, and 3 or 4 interested to buy him. And I was speaking to an agent about 10 days ago about just. We were having a chat over Zoom, and I was asking him of various things and things he can and what he can't say. And he was adamant to me that, you know, there's a queue of teams who would take Raheem Brewster on loan and be happy to pay his wages and all that, and in full give Liverpool a little loan fee as well. So if he gets sold, even with the buybacks and the clauses and stuff, I don't think that's a thing of, oh yeah, Raheem, we'll just buy you back. I think if he gets sold, I think it's someone's made a decision that he's not good enough. And then including the buybacks and the sell-on clause is just clever business. You know, it's smart. I think it's odd, but like I say, I don't see the lad enough. Yeah, there's no way he leaves if Diego thinks he's good. I don't think Jürgen would just cash in on him, because I think there's other people in the squad who, if he needed to raise funds desperately, like he was desperate, I think there's 3 or 4 others who would go before him. So I think the decision would have been right. He isn't for us. He's a good player, but he doesn't suit what we're doing, kind of thing. On the rest of the business, like I say, I think they should have been signings. Again, they should have been signing someone. I think they really should have it. I think centre-half is a big worry for me, just because all these games in such a condensed period of time. And listen, Joel Matip's fit now, but his record shows that we shouldn't bank on Joel Matip staying fit. Joe Gomez, obviously, has had his injury worries. Is a little bit different because there's not much you can do about snapping your ACL, and there's not much you can do enough. So if some lad at Burnley breaks your leg, well, that's kind of hard lines. But Joel Matip's had hamstring pulls and calf pulls and little muscle niggles, and that worries me. You know, when you the calf niggles and the what have you. So that for me is something that very rarely goes away. But you very rarely stop getting muscle injuries. So if we lose Matip for a month, which is highly possible, he's only just coming back now. You're asking Gomez and Van Dijk to go again and again and again, or you're saying to Fabinho, drop in a centre half, and then you're messing around with your midfield. And there are games where you want Fabinho centre mid because he's brilliant there, and all of a sudden he's playing centre half. He'll do a good job there, but you're kind of weakening 2 areas of your team. So that's the one that annoys me more. Actually, I think I understand Lovren wanted to go and play, and I understand things like that, but I think there should have been a replacement in place, or at least close to it, because I don't think any of the young lads are good enough at the moment, to be honest. Whether they're just not at the level that I think they need to be at, or if they're just too young and inexperienced. I do think centre half that is a concern for me. The rest of it, I'm not that worried about, but I think Liverpool are an injury or two at centre half from being in kind of big trouble, which isn't ideal going into a season when you want to retain your title.
Yeah, we'll have to watch this space, I suppose, and see what happens. But I can't let you go without talking about your new venture, your new podcast, the Sporting Voices podcast. I love the idea behind it, but for our viewers that aren't aware of exactly, I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory, but why don't you give it a bit of a plug and let people know what they can expect? Yeah,
so essentially, I get asked, in my role, I get asked quite a bit about, how do you do your job? How do you break into the media? Any tips, any contacts and stuff like that? And I can't just stand there and start giving Henry Winter's phone number out, or, whoever it is. I can't just say, oh yeah, do that. So what I decided to do is interview these kind of people and just put a podcast out there where you can, get behind the scenes of media. And I think the more, and you might be in the same boat, Craig, is that the more you work on this kind of stuff, the more interesting you become. So when you sit and watch a football game, you probably don't even, at some point, certain people don't even notice like camera angles and commentators, and I wonder how long he's been prepping for that, or that kind of thing. With that stuff interests me a little bit, the production side of it, and it's just shining the light on that. So on the podcast, I interview people who work in sports media essentially, and just get tips on how they started and what they do now and what it's like in various situations. But I interviewed Rory Hamilton, who commentated on Rangers Celtic Cup final. I mean, that is about as high pressure as you can get, in terms of you can't make mistakes in that game. If you say the wrong words or to say the wrong thing, it's a big deal. How do you cope with that? I spoke to Henry Winter about speaking to footballers in this day and age where they've all got a platform and everyone's got a message they want to get across. I spoke to Andy Clark, who does skyboxing, about how you combine being a commentator with being an interviewer. I spoke to Mark Scott, who's a Match of the Day presenter, about interviewing managers who are under pressure. And so he said he had to go and interview Eddie Howe, and you've got to ask do you think you're going to lose your job? And that might sound pretty straightforward, but I think that would be quite daunting, to go up to a fella and say, listen mate, are you worried that you're going to get the sack? You probably don't think of it at the time when you're just watching or listening to the interview, but there is a process behind all this. So that's the main aim of it, is just to get a sneak behind the curtain almost of what it's like to work in media. Because I think some people think it's dead easy and very, very glamorous. And listen, I love my job, and there's lots of perks to it, and the fact that I get paid to talk, write, edit about sport is just out of this world, because as jobs go, it's very much up there. But I think some people think it's very, very easy. As a commentator, you just turn up, say a few words, and shoot off. But I think there's a lot more to it. And I think when if people listen and hear these guys talk, and further down the line, I've got some writers and I've got broadcasters lined up as well. Just the sheer amount of effort that goes into their work, because they make it look easy. That's because of how good they are at it. And I think everyone thinks, I could be a commentator, I could do that, but it is quite tough. And that's kind of the thing that I've been going for, is that I think it's nice to get an appreciation of what it's like, the good things, the bad things, how you go about doing it. And like I say, there are thousands of people at university every year doing sports broadcasting, journalism degrees. So if a few of those might get a few little tips here and there, then that's good. It'll help them along the way. So that's kind of the idea of it in a nutshell.
I have to say, I absolutely love the idea behind the podcast. As soon as I read on your profile that you were starting it, I was very intrigued by it, because even as somebody who's somewhat getting into the industry myself, there is so much that you can learn, little tidbits of information, as you said, from presenters that have been there and done that. Who's your dream guest? Now, obviously, you're going to give me Jurgen Klopp, but if we could push Liverpool aside, who would you love to have on for a chat?
Yeah, so to be honest, it would be weird having Jurgen, because I don't think he would suit the bill. I'd like to chat to him, but I don't think he would fit the mantra of being on it. Ideal guest, maybe Jamie Carragher, Gary Neville, that duo, because I think it'd be interesting to see how Monday Night Football and all that kind of stuff. Looking at other sports as well, I'm a big fan of Sky and their cricket coverage, so maybe some people who are involved in that as well. And then, NFL, I'm a big NFL fan, so the likes of Peter King, who's like a renowned journalist. They would be the ideals. I'm very fortunate, because I've had people who broadcast to literally millions of people each and every weekend on Match of the Day and Sky. Henry Winter's got like 1 million followers, and he's the chief writer of the Times. It's probably the biggest job in football writing in England. So I've been quite fortunate that these people have given their time to come and speak to me, and they've done it for nothing as well. I think we spoke off air before, and I think the fact that everyone's stuck inside a little bit, and everyone's used to Zoom calls and things, and has maybe freed their time up to help me out as well. So, but yeah, I would love to sit down with the Monday Night Football team, and just get the dynamics, because again, when they're on, they make it look so simple, but just the logistics of all those clips, all your analysis, everything you're going to do each day, I think it would be fascinating to get an insight into how those guys go about it.
That's a really good show. I was fascinated to see the background of the Match of the Day. It was one big green screen, one massive giant green screen, and then you see Gary and the lads doing the show. And as you said, the pre-work that goes on, getting the clips, getting the statistics, making sure you've got the running order right. There's so much stuff that we mere mortals don't get to see. But I tell you what's the reason why you'll get these people on, and the reason why they'll be happy to come and have a chat with you, is because you're genuinely one of the good guys in this industry. You're always open, jolly, and nice to people. I've had some great conversations with you on Twitter over the years, and it's a pleasure to finally have you on for a chat. And I wish you every success with this podcast. If anybody wants to go and check it out, there will be links in the description. Can you give us a sneak peek of who's coming up next?
Yeah, so as and when this goes out, I think, Craig, the next guest is Derek Ray, who commentates over in America on ESPN and a few channels over there. He's a World Cup commentator. He's also one of the voices on the FIFA football games. So I got into a little bit of discussion around that as well. In terms of who's after, I'm waiting for a few confirmations, but Nat Coombs, I'm trying to get Nat on, because he's big in terms of the NFL side of, and obviously the NFL's expanded massively over here. So I'm trying to get what it's like to be in that industry as well. I've got writers from the BBC. I've got more commentators from football all lined up. So I'm looking forward to it. I think, like I say, as and when this goes out, I'm right in saying the Derek Ray interview will have gone out today, Friday, and then after that, we'll see. I've got a few in the can. I just haven't decided on what order I'm going to put them out yet. But like I say, if people want to follow it on Twitter, it's at the SV Podcast. Go and have a look there, and it's on Spotify, it's on iTunes, it's on Acast, it's pretty much anywhere that does podcast, I've applied to get it on there. I'll be honest, Craig, I'm not doing this to try and make any money because there's not much money in it. It's more, it's just personal. It's kind of like my little project, my little side project. It's something that I'm interested in. I get a genuine thrill out of talking to these people. And the fact that I get to record it and put it out for other people, if they enjoy it, fine. If they don't, well, I've had a nice half an hour chatting to people and I've learned quite a bit. So that's kind of why I've done it.
I'll tell you what, I've really enjoyed our chat, and you've got a listener here and me, my friend. I'll certainly be checking it out. Before I let you go, I know this was gone out on Friday. I need a prediction. Give me a prediction for the Leeds game, Steve.
I think Liverpool will win 2-0. I don't think it'll be the easiest of games because I'm a big fan of Bielsa. I think he's brilliant. I think he's an amazing manager. And listen, the standard of players is going to be different. You know, as well as Leeds are, and they have spent a bit of money. Liverpool are just on a different level to a newly promoted team. But I think Leeds will make it tough. I think Liverpool aren't anywhere near their best. I think we've seen that in pre-season. And nor should they be, because it's been mental. It's been a strange few days and weeks and stuff. And you know, the players only arrived back from international duty a couple of days before. So I think it would be foolish to think that it's going to be 5-6-0, which it should be against the newly promoted team at home. But I'd still bank on us to get the job done. So yeah, I'm going to say 2-0.
Nice one. Ladies and gentlemen, all the links will be in the description for Stephen's podcast. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, mate. I hope to catch up with you again soon. You know what to do, folks. Hit that subscribe button, drop a like on the stream. And thank you to our special guest today, Mr. Steve Hoare. We'll talk to you soon.